true social game, and I don't mean parallel play with boasting, I mean when we get together and actually play as people, and what sort of games we can make with augmented reality. And that's it.
Sorry, I'm just updating my back to the words for the next round. Then we'll get on to Hugh, who's going to talk to us about some of the very many different games that sit in the liminal spaces, and gives an understanding of those things that sit part in reality and part in virtual or augmented reality. Hugh.
I don't have a slide presentation at all either, so I'm just going to sit down as you did, John. Yeah, I'm sort of interested in ubiquitous games, which is a term that Jamie Gonkel uses to talk about a fairly large range of, ubiquitous games, which is pervasive games, alternative reality games, augmented reality games, and some serious games, location-based. And I suppose my particular perspective on them, it's changed a lot. At the moment, my particular perspective is researching them, and I suppose taking off from Jamie Gonkel's thesis. For those of you who don't know, I think you know that she is probably the sort of main exponent of alternate reality game design and research at the moment, working out of the United States. And she wrote a very interesting thesis about ubiquitous games, and in it she calls for a couple of things, and one of the things she calls for is a bit more sort of engagement with these ubiquitous games from philosophical, anthropological, political, psychoanalytical perspectives. But they actually, she really calls for them to be growing, but also considered, and I think that sort of thing is starting to happen from a few different quarters. I think that organisations like PBO itself and Glass Theory, who I know you've worked with, are beginning to look at the games, I suppose, particularly from a political perspective and what they can offer public spaces from, I suppose, a political perspective. But one area which she discusses and which I find very interesting is this notion of when you have a game which you place in a public area, where you sort of extend the magic circle into shared public spaces, what the kind of concerns for that are and what the opportunities for that are as well. And it's a very interesting sort of pregnant area. There was an article on it, I think only about a week ago, where someone was sort of suggesting and enthusiastic about these games, but was sort of saying, there's a real sort of potential for some like terrorist organisations who feed clues to players who would then go and do these terrorist acts, or sort of pass like big drug mules, all that sort of thing. And I'm always very interested by these concerns. I think that I guess for a couple of reasons. I think that it's very easy to accuse games of these sorts of things, whereas these things can happen in any aspect of society. But I suppose when quite often when gaming comes to an area, these sorts of issues that sort of spark up. There's still this kind of innate fear about games. But I'm also sort of interested from the point of view of this idea within particularly alternate reality games, which deliberately try and blur the line between their reality and fiction, that people will have this kind of sort of ontological crisis and sort of meltdown between what is real and what is fiction, which I find fascinating. I mean, it's the classic sort of postmodern condition, I suppose, that we no longer know what's real and what, but it's really been around forever. But I've been thinking about this idea for a long time and writing about it, and but it's incredible. Like, you watch kids play on the road; they'll play cricket on the road, and there are the rules of the cricket game, and like if it goes over the fence, it's 6 and out, and if it hits the car, that's automatic, wicket or whatever. But as soon as a car comes along, they yell car, and the whole thing disperses, and then it sort of once the kind of danger object is gone. And I think this notion of play, whereby you can actually completely disperse the magic circle, and everyone knows and understands. If you take advantage of that moment when there is a car and you get an extra run or something, I mean, it's bad play. And this is stuff that we've all grown up with, and I think that this level of play is extremely important when considering games that go into real spaces. This idea that we actually all do have this inherent understanding of play. I mean, even animals have it, you see dogs playing in a park, and there'll be play fighting. There's this sort of understanding of how far a play fight should go before it becomes a real fight and that sort of thing. And of course, these things, they're dogs. It's a violent game. It's the same way as watching football players out on a football field. And there is a white line in that context, but this sort of idea of play is something that we all sort of innately understand. And I guess I don't really hold to that idea that certainly from a player perspective there could be any possible danger of blurring the line between reality and fiction in any sort of serious or ongoing way. So yeah, my particular interest at the moment is kind of, I suppose, psychoanalyzing a whole bunch of games, and just thinking about some of the things that were mentioned on this panel as well. Steve, you mentioned you were quite inspired by the John Carpenter film, Davies, and how, which is very interesting. For those of you who don't know, I can't remember if you explained it at all, but basically the main character finds a pair of sunglasses, which I won't go into the whole history of how they came about, but these sunglasses, through these sunglasses, which are entirely augmented reality glasses, he's able to see the sort of the true meaning of things. And so he'll walk down the street and he'll see signs and they'll be advertising things, but they'll actually sort of, when he puts these sunglasses on, it'll say things like, money or sex, or he holds up a banknote and it says, like currency, and it says, I am your God, or something like that. And I think this sort of idea of, which is a great sort of idea for, maybe a game or perhaps some intervention. But, I mean, at the moment there's these contact lenses which are being developed, which are being scoped out for the possibility of being augmented reality enabled. So AR contact lenses. So you could actually be walking around and have no visible interface, essentially an invisible interface, but be able to have augmented reality content sort of mapped out in front of you. And you sort of think, well, with these sorts of interfaces, is there this danger of losing that grasp of reality? And I think that this is where things sort of become a little bit interesting. I think, without being too caught up in technological determinism, I suppose there is a little bit of a danger there. But once again, I think the content is, the nature of the content is always going to be more pervasive than the game, I suppose. This content will, in itself, remind you that you're part of this game, part of this experience. And I think that, these things as well, these sort of concerns about reality being eroded, the single principle on which they all stand, of course, is that reality is objective, I suppose, but there is this one single corruptible version of reality that things like games and stuff somehow might damage. And as with these glasses in the context of the film, and with the work that groups like you and Glass Theory are involved in, that is very much the purpose, which is to corrupt the ideas of reality that are sort of propagated in a lot of public spaces, which are very much sort of commercial concerns and security concerns, these sorts of ideas. actually just want to ask you as well, John, just about, we had a little bit of a discussion online, just about, in terms of augmented reality, you know, I've mentioned the sort of possibility of one particular sort of, you know, science fiction sounding future with augmented reality, but at the same time, there are all these problems with like latency and you know, these issues. The technology is always so much more ambitious on paper than it is when you actually get out into the space as things go wrong. I remember the classic cry of location-based games about 3 or 4 years ago. It was like, am I still playing? Have I won? Am I still in the game? I don't really know what's going on anymore. Yeah.
You always give something up when you're taking on technology, and one of the things we give up when you start using our phones is the vision from out here to the vision through this tiny little screen. And I mean, that's what's interesting about Jane from the exchange. I talked about it was completely in her mind, it's really within her friends and family. You know, there's no technical opportunity, content classes or anything to play this game. And I think as soon as I've mediated through something where the rules enshrining code or there's some sort of technology, then it may take me away from it. And specifically with augmented reality at the moment, the GPS sucks. You could be half blown away from where you think you are, and there's a lot of usability issues. We forget as gamers when we first learned our spatial recognition in a 3D world, and straight around corners and this kind of stuff. It's second nature, and that stuff has to be learned again for augmented reality applications. And there's a lot of you know, those assumptions we need to learn and design problems we need to solve before they become usable by most people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I've often found that the games that actually use the least technology become the most fun. You don't actually need to get sort of, you don't need to learn an interface or anything, you just sort of get involved. The rules are explained to you. Journey Chronicles Called Behind is a great example of that. And Journey to the End of the Night by SF0, which if I'm not sure if people are aware of it, it's a game, SF0 is the sort of alternate reality game group in San Francisco, but they have a game which basically you get a map to begin with, and it just gives you directions or an address that you have to get to, and you go to that address, and then you know it might be some sort of seedy nightclub, and you go to the person at the bar and you give them some code word, and they give you another map to go somewhere else, and it's just this sort of like treasure hunt, I suppose, and it takes place over the night. So you might start at sort of 7 o'clock at night and finish at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the first person to get through all of these things, and you might have like 50 or 100 people playing. And the idea is that it takes you to all of these places that you just simply would never have gone to otherwise. You know, and it is just sort of seedy nightclubs and 7-Elevens in the wrong side of town and this kind of thing. And I think this idea, I was part of it in New York in 2006, and it was great fun. But a couple of people sort of, fell over and got scratches and that sort of thing. And I looked at running it here in Australia and found that unless you do these things outside of a festival context, I think it's like $1 million insurance bond that you need to pay on running these games. And I spoke to the Greg Treffery, who was running the festival in New York, and I said, how did you do it? And he just said, well, we just did it. We didn't even worry about what the consequences might be. But I did also speak to a couple of other people about it, including some New York police, who were just like, it's New York. It's a big city. It's, you take your life into your hands a little bit as you wander around. And I wonder how those sorts of games can be played in, I suppose, maybe less New York cities. And I saw last year. What's that?